AOC was on 60 Minutes last night. Quite a feat for a newcomer. Must be all her great new ideas. He truly is an American hero. It was brutal. Taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs.
As for whether it's a good idea, that's a debate we should be having. And look, if we could get congressional approval of the specific action, fine.
Oh, let's do it. What happens? You have repeat criminals wreaking havoc. What if we have sanctuary cities? Hey, let's do it. What happens? But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea.
The drama surrounding Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had been simmering for years, but it took only one moment on live television for the narrative she spent a lifetime curating to unravel in front of millions. What began as a simple remark about a high school yearbook photo spiraled into a spectacle of contradictions, and the collision of her public story with her documented past gave commentators like Gutfeld Megyn an opening they had waited for. The moment they seized it, the internet felt the tremor. Suddenly, every speech, every viral moment, every perfectly posed photograph became material for dismantling the carefully polished image AOC presented to the world. And on that day, the takedown didn't just land. It detonated. It started innocently enough. A resurfaced high school photo showed a smiling teenager in Yorktown Heights, a quiet suburban town with comfortable homes and good schools. When critics claimed it contradicted her famous "I grew up in the Bronx" narrative, AOC fired back with a proud, almost theatrical declaration, "See, I told you I went to high school." She said it with the self-assured confidence of someone who believed the argument ended there, as though the picture validated everything rather than raising more questions. This became the spark that set off a wildfire. It wasn't the photo that bothered people. It was the dismissive certainty in her voice, the way she brushed aside any curiosity about the story she had repeated for years. The Bronx identity was not just a detail for AOC. It was her political armor, her branding, and the emotional foundation of her speeches about overcoming adversity.
Let's check in on AOC and see what she has to say.
Any quick reaction on what's going on with Elon Musk and President Trump on Twitter right now?
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they?
She doubled down.
I think this breakup we've been seeing a long time coming, but we'll see what the impacts are of it legislatively.
Bringing up her years as a waitress struggling to put food on the
table.
Cool,
referring to them as the girls. She's above it all, Ben. That's what she's trying to telegraph. You see, she's the adult in the room, the one out there who does a preacher accent, and she leans into her fake Latina accent.
She looked out into the crowd,
like she's the adult,
as she warned them that we cannot live like this anymore. It was a familiar speech, one she had given in dozens of variations. Yet this time, something was different. People didn't hear resilience. They heard performance. And when that performance collided with the high school photo, the comfortable suburb, the tidy neighborhood, the internet didn't buy the contrast. The contradictions were too sharp, the tone too rehearsed, and the sudden flood of emotion felt less like honesty and more like a default response whenever her image was threatened. Megyn had been watching all of this unfold with the precision of someone who knew exactly what she was looking at. When it came time to speak, she didn't go for volume or theatrics. She went for accuracy. Kelly dismantled AOC's carefully engineered persona with a methodical calm that hit harder than any raised voice could have. She cut straight through the monologues and the emotional framing and focused on the details AOC always glossed over. Kelly pointed out that Yorktown Heights was not the Bronx by any stretch of the imagination. It was cleaner, safer, wealthier, and overwhelmingly middle class. She wasn't attacking AOC for growing up there. She was attacking the fantasy that she hadn't. With the cold precision of a surgeon, Kelly explained that AOC had spent far more years in the suburbs than she ever did in the Bronx, and that her claim of being a tough Bronx girl who eats Queens boys for breakfast was less authenticity and more costume work. According to Kelly, the issue wasn't her background. The issue was her dishonesty about it. And the moment Kelly said it, audiences realized it was true. Her analysis didn't just land. It stuck, because it wasn't built on jokes. It was built on facts AOC could no longer outrun. Gutfeld, on the other hand, didn't bother with surgical precision. He brought a flamethrower, and he enjoyed every second of using it. The moment he heard AOC's name, he lit up like a comedian handed the perfect setup. He said that listening to AOC was like browsing the clearance section of Berkeley's 1980s bookstore, full of outdated slogans pretending to be revolutionary ideas. He likened her speeches to microwaved leftovers from college activism, half-formed theories warmed just enough to sound political but never enough to be convincing. She wasn't fresh, he said. She was stale. And not just stale. Predictably stale. He broke down her habit of turning every Instagram live session into what he called a State of the Union for ring lights, where she preached, ranted, and emotionally fluctuated like a performer waiting for applause that never came. He joked that AOC could walk into a room full of real policy experts and walk out with buzzwords instead of plans, as if new vocabulary was the same as new ideas. Every time she explained an economic concept, he said, it sounded like someone reading a screenshot of a Wikipedia summary 2 minutes before speaking. Then he went after her dramatic flair, a signature AOC trait that journalists often handled with caution. Greg had no such hesitation. He described her as a politician who treated Capitol Hill hallways like a runway and legislative debates like theatrical auditions. He recalled her staged arrest, where she put her hands behind her back to mimic handcuffs that weren't there. Greg mocked her for pretending so convincingly that even professional actors would have applauded her commitment, calling it political cosplay at its finest. He joked that the only cuffs involved were the ones sewn onto her shirt sleeves, and even those weren't real. But the real destruction began when the commentators turned their attention to her policies. Greg said the Green New Deal read like a school project created the night before it was due, covered in glitter, enthusiasm, and absolutely no math. He compared it to assembling IKEA furniture without instructions and then blaming the furniture when it collapsed. According to him, AOC had a gift for proposing ideas so unrealistic they bordered on fan fiction, and then attacking anyone who questioned them as morally bankrupt. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly, with her usual composure, analyzed AOC's speeches as emotional performances rather than logical arguments. She pointed out how AOC relied heavily on moral outrage instead of data, treating every disagreement as a moral crisis. Kelly said AOC delivered her points like motivational posters recited aloud, full of feeling but lacking structure. The issue, Kelly argued, wasn't that AOC had strong beliefs. It was that she replaced substance with sentiment. When Kelly described AOC's environmental activism, she did it with a smirk that cut sharper than any heated rant. She questioned how someone claiming to save the planet could fly across the country constantly, rack up travel emissions, and pose for magazine covers between speeches about climate justice. She said AOC's environmental messaging had the depth of a bumper sticker and the consistency of a weather report written in crayon. It wasn't that she lacked passion. It was that she lacked discipline. Then came the emotional theatrics. AOC's cries, her trembling voice during congressional votes, her stories about trauma recalled only after they became politically convenient. These were the moments Kelly and Gutfeld tore apart piece by piece. Gutfeld said AOC reacted to criticism like a toddler denied candy. Loud. Indignant. Certain she was the victim. He said she treated fact-checking as persecution, and every question became a personal attack fueled by prejudice. According to him, her leadership style was less about solving problems and more about starring in her own ongoing political drama. Kelly's version was quieter but no less devastating. She explained that AOC weaponized emotion, turning every challenge into a personal story and every disagreement into oppression. AOC didn't debate, she performed. She didn't challenge. She scolded. And in doing so, Kelly argued, she reduced complex cultural debates to viral slogans, treating attention as accomplishment and applause as validation. She said AOC acted like a revolutionary while enjoying every perk of power, capturing the contradictions that shaped the Congresswoman's public persona. When Kelly addressed AOC's claims to working-class struggle, she didn't ridicule them. She exposed the embellishment. She mocked the way AOC transformed her bartender job into a mythic tale of survival, turning a perfectly normal early 20s job into her political Marvel origin story. Kelly joked that AOC talked about bartending as though she had invented hardship itself, and that her inevitable memoir would probably be titled something like From Cocktails to Congress, A Revolution in Heels. Greg wasn't done either. He returned to the stage with another round of mockery centered around AOC's dramatic recollections of danger, particularly during the Capitol incident. He pointed out that her most alarming claims were always delayed, revealed only after they became emotionally relevant or politically useful. He joked that AOC must have a storage closet full of unremembered traumas she could pull out whenever a new spotlight appeared. According to him, she was the reigning champion of political improv drama, ready to perform any role the moment the cameras turned on. Then he attacked her foreign policy stances, saying her approach consisted of little more than 3 steps. Feel bad, blame America, demand change. To Greg, AOC didn't propose solutions so much as Pinterest boards filled with inspirational quotes. He joked that if she tried to resolve a global crisis, her plan would probably include tofu recipes and a playlist. Kelly went deeper, highlighting the way AOC moved from outsider activist to establishment celebrity without acknowledging the shift. She pointed out that AOC now enjoyed the fame, the wealth, the influence she once attacked. Kelly argued that AOC wanted to be both revolutionary and mainstream, rebellious and adored. She wanted the rebellion without the risk, the fame without the scrutiny. And that duality, Kelly explained, revealed the core contradiction. AOC wasn't outside the system. She was profiting from it. As the critiques continued, the internet chimed in, turning certain AOC moments into running jokes. Her faux handcuff pose, her dramatic pauses, her exaggerated accents, her habit of referring to political disputes as though she were narrating a telenovela, all of these became memes overnight. AOC unintentionally provided endless material, and Greg and Kelly amplified it all. Gutfeld said she was the queen of performative politics, turning every minor issue into a national spectacle. He said she treated potholes like systemic oppression and Twitter arguments like historic battles. He joked that she could take something as simple as a dispute over parking regulations and transform it into a heartfelt speech about inequality and the emotional burden of asphalt patriarchy. Kelly wasn't any kinder. She mocked AOC's habit of moralizing trivial issues and dramatizing minor controversies while avoiding substantive work. She said AOC's leadership was defined by selective outrage, loud when it was convenient, silent when it required discipline. And when Kelly said AOC's greatest fear wasn't being wrong but being irrelevant, it resonated deeply because it explained everything. The constant posting, the staged photo shoots, the dramatic rants delivered with perfect lighting. Both Kelly and Gutfeld ended the segment with the same chilling point. Slogans fade. Hashtags disappear. Viral moments lose their shine. Eventually, the cameras turn away. When that day arrives, AOC will discover that grandstanding isn't governance and microphones don't make laws. Kelly warned that passion without results becomes noise, and when the echo dies, what's left is the truth everyone has to face. And Gutfeld, with his signature smirk, said the performance wasn't over. As long as AOC kept playing her part, he and Kelly would be right there watching from the front row, ready for the next scene, the next monologue, the next moment of melodrama disguised as leadership. Because they understood better than anyone that AOC wasn't just a politician. She was a brand, a storyline, and above all, a performer. And like all performers, eventually the show ends. The applause fades. The stage goes quiet. And the real world waits for results that hashtags can't create. But AOC, she wasn't ready for that world. Not yet.